My brother-in-law got me an Easter gift and gave it to me alone after we had the main celebration. Hi. I'm 16 female. My brother-in-law is 34 male. Yesterday we had Easter at my parents' house and my sister and her husband came over along with a lot of other family. There were a lot of kids, so we did a whole egg hunt, Easter basket thing, and then had a big dinner. So after dinner I was doing something in my room when my brother-in-law came in and closed the door, which I thought was weird. Then he sat down on my bed and was like, "I know you don't usually give gifts on Easter, but I thought you could use some relaxing." And he gave me a $300 gift certificate to the spa I go to, and was like, "I figured you could have a nice day with one of your friends." He told me not to mention it to my sister because he said she'll get mad he didn't get her one too, but he says he thinks she already spends enough money at the spa. I said thanks and everything, but it's just the first time he's ever given me a gift one-on-one. Like usually when I get gifts from him it's from him and my sister, and it's not like after the celebration has ended. My friend said I'm overthinking it and I should just enjoy the gift. IDK. Tell your mom. Now. A 34-year-old man approaching a 16-year-old girl in her bedroom, closing the door, giving her an expensive gift, and telling her to keep it a secret. Yeah, this is creepy as hell. Tell your parents ASAP. I hope I'm wrong, but your brother-in-law sounds like a potential predator. Seems like a clumsy attempt at grooming. Definitely tell your mother. Please tell your sister and your parents immediately. This is deeply inappropriate and he knows it, which is why he gave it to you away from everyone else. And coming into your room and closing the door is also not okay. The fact he gave you gift is not a problem, the shady way in which he gave it to you, the fact he wants you to hide it from your family, the fact it's a high-value gift from out of nowhere, please read about love bombing, are all huge red flags. Trust your instincts here, they are right. Tell your mom, not your sister. $300. Given in secret. Older man to a teen girl. There's not much here that's redeeming for him. At best, it's a massive overstep and he needs to know how creepy it comes off. At worst, he's trying to build a relationship with you by giving secret gifts and keeping little secrets from your family. Honestly, it sounds really unsettling. Mention it to your mom and then your sister. My friend said I'm overthinking it and I should just enjoy the gift. IDK. It made you feel weird and you should trust your instincts. Your friend is less than smart, so do not listen to them. Tell your mom so that the brother-in-law gets the message that you aren't going to keep his secrets. As someone who has been through a similar situation but let it get worse, please tell your mom. And please update us so we can know if you're okay. My 22F boyfriend, 21M, is upset that I paid a random lady's vet bill. Too long did not read. My boyfriend thinks that I was being way too nice by paying a $600 vet bill for a woman I don't know, and it's causing a rift in our relationship. My boyfriend and I have been together for a year and a half now. We don't live together, but he spends every weekend at my house. We both work full-time, so seeing each other during the week is hard, because we live about an hour and 40 minutes away from each other. Our relationship has been amazing so far, and we haven't had any major arguments until this one. This weekend, we actually rescued a cat together. We found a poor kitty on the side of the road, and proceeded to come up with a quick plan to rescue it. Everything worked out, we got it in a box, and immediately called the only vet that was open near us, in the next town over. They were able to see her, we got everything she needed, and everything worked out perfectly. We finished up with the vet, and when we walked out of our room so I could pay for the vet visit, there was a woman crying at the front desk. She was extremely upset that she wouldn't be able to pay for a surgery her cat needed, which would cost $600. I have a very well-paying job, and I already have a decent amount of money saved up. I'm not extremely well off or anything, but I'm doing alright. I had the money to help her, and my heart told me I should help this lady out, so I did. My boyfriend stayed very quiet while I was talking to the lady, and he ended up taking my new kitty to the car while I was still inside of the office. He was pretty quiet most of the way home, and then he looked over at me and basically just told me I shouldn't have done what I did. He says it was a waste of money, and I must have some kind of hero complex or something. He then basically just laid into me, saying I'm too nice for my own good, and people are going to take advantage of that if I keep it up. I'm still feeling pretty upset about what he said. Initially, I felt great about helping the lady. I was happy to be able to help her keep her fur baby. I'm not really sure how to proceed with my boyfriend. Maybe he was right, I don't know. We haven't really talked much today at all, and I feel like he's kind of giving me the silent treatment now. I'm not really sure how to proceed here, and I'd love some advice. Thanks. You did a wonderful thing for a person in need. That lady will remember you and what you did forever. For your boyfriend to criticize you and make you feel like crap is really tty. Does he criticize you often, or was this out of character for him? I'd seriously reconsider staying with someone who treat you like this. That was one of the kindest things you could possibly do. She was shedding tears for a family member. You could afford it. You did it. You are an angel. It was a random act of kindness. If we had more people who practiced this, the world would be a much better place. There are men who think and behave the way you do. I bet you'd be much happier with one of them. Bless you for not just considering the well-being of stranger. You actually did something to bring her joy. Your income, your money, your discretion. As long as your bills are paid, I don't see the difference of you spending $600 on a purse versus spending $600 on a stranger's vet bill, other than one is going to positively impact several lives. Good on you for bringing hope and light to that woman and her cat. Hey, look at it like you paid $600 to save a kitty, and the bonus is you found out your guy is innately selfish. Think of all the time, money and heartache that saves you in the long run. Girl, think about this, you just changed that woman and her cat's life by one random act of kindness. I guarantee you that woman you helped will never forget what you did for her. If you have the money to pay her bill and it's not impacting your bills negatively, then that's the end of discussion. You don't need your BF's permission to spend your own money. Because he is insecure about himself. You made him look bad by being so altruistic. He took a great thing you did and made it about him. Sounds like he needs a reality check. Your money, do what you want. You did an incredibly angelic, generous, and selfless thing. Please don't let anyone make you feel bad about it. This was amazing of you. That woman will never forget you, and her cat is surviving because of you. My kids might not be my kids, and I don't really know what to do about it. For context, I am 30 and my wife is 29, and we've been together since 2013. We got married in summer 2017, and we have 2 children together. We have a 5-year-old girl and a 3-year-old boy. I was present for the birth of both of my children, and, as we were years into a long-term relationship, I had no doubt that they were my children. Additionally, I am black and my wife is Asian, so there aren't many other children that look like ours. So basically there was absolutely zero doubt in my mind that my children were not mine. Me and my mom always talked about getting a DNA test to look into my ancestry, as, being African American, I had no clear way to trace my family history back further than around the early 1800s. So for my 30th birthday last year she decided to get me a test. What I didn't know was that she got me 3, 1 for myself and 2 for my kids. The 3 of us did our tests and sent them off the next day, and I thought nothing of it. Me and my wife both work medical jobs that require long hours, and she works days while I work nights, meaning that I usually look after the kids during the day. This meant that, as I forgot to tell her on the day, she had no knowledge of the tests. Once they were sent off I completely forgot about them, and so did the kids. It wasn't until 3 weeks later in late December that I got a message saying that the results were going to be sent in the next couple days that I remembered and decided to tell my wife. Upon telling her, she was visibly uncomfortable. She had the kind of look in her eye that said, "Why the hell would you do that?" I laughed and shrugged it off as some kind of joke and carried on what I was doing. Later that day I brought it up again and she still didn't look okay. This was when I thought that she might have not been joking. I asked her what was wrong and she shrugged it off and said it was fine. We went to sleep that night, and by the morning we never spoke about it again. But by this point I was worried. Then the next day, while my wife was at work, the results came. It turns out I was West African, 78%, Western European, 13%, Northern European, 6%, and then Native American, 3%. These were broken down more specifically, but the details aren't necessary to the story. And my children were Han Chinese, 50%, which was of course to be expected, as we knew from her family that my wife's family were just from China. But it was the rest that confused me. Both were also West African, but only 11%. They were 24% East African, 10% Middle Eastern, and 5% European. Again, those are non-specific, but the details aren't necessary. I was obviously shocked to see these results, but I knew there were often mix-ups and issues, so I didn't think too much of it. I even considered that maybe there were issues with it because my children were so young. My wife's reaction to hearing about the test never even crossed my mind, but in hindsight I should have seen that as a red flag. Anyway, I asked the company to verify the results, and in a couple weeks' time, now January of 2022, I got the results back saying that there were no inaccuracies. There was definitely something up. Now I started to panic, and I mostly kept this a secret until this month, only telling my best friend of 15 years. He was convinced that she had cheated and said that he was always kinda suspicious of her. I didn't really know what that meant, but we never really spoke about it again. Well, a couple days ago I told my wife all of this as she was leaving for work. It was early and I had only just got home, so I was really tired and I didn't really remember the situation as I pretty much went straight to bed. When she came home she looked like she had been crying but refused to tell me what was wrong. I'm confident that it's because of what I told her. I attempted to bring it up the morning after, but I was shut down. This was one of the rare days that we both had off of work, so we normally spend those together. We hardly spoke all day. She took the kids out, something that I usually do. And I went out with some of my work friends. This is the most open and objective I've been about the situation, and I honestly have no clue what to do about it. Something is clearly wrong, but I don't know what to do about it. Whether or to my kids are mine. I'll always love them as my own, but I'll never be able to look at my wife the same if she really did cheat. And I'm worrying that if things really came to it and we divorced, she would get majority custody of the kids. Too long did not read. My kids probably aren't related to me and my wife probably maybe cheated, and I'm completely lost as to what's gonna happen with my life as of now. Get a new set of DNA tests done, specifically to determine paternity. If possible, don't mention it to your wife. Once you know the truth, for certain, you can decide what to do with it. Until then, it's still just speculation. Did ancestry, and while I came back 18% Ghanaian, my brother came back 39%. Same black father, same white mother. I have WAYYY more European traits, very light skin. Hair texture is different, very light eyes. And so I wasn't surprised when I came back as 82% European. Genes don't necessarily split down the middle for your children. Ancestry showed that we were all related: brother, mother, sister, father. If you're truly concerned, get a paternity test and ease your mind. You'll know definitively. So just from my experience, those texts don't give accurate readings on where you're from. Like me and my siblings are all from different places, apparently with different country DNA. I think it's more about the specific DNA expressed. But her behavior is a bit off. Consider a paternity test. Also, don't the DNA tests show who your probable parents are? Like mine listed my parents 50-50 perfectly, despite the odd discrepancies on actual locational DNA. An ancestry result is not a paternity test. Your wife could have not looked okay, because she realized you didn't trust her. Without cause, it is an epic slap in the face. You've gone this far. Get the proper test done, but if they are your kids, you owe her an apology and an explanation. If you did Ancestry or 23andMe, do you match with your children? Are they showing up as parent-child? You would share 3,000 plus CMS with them, so they would definitely show up if they tested at the same site as you and you're not blocking DNA matches. Since your wife wasn't tested, you are just assuming she is 100% Chinese. I was raised to believe I'm 100% German, but my DNA shows more French and English than German, which with the way borders changed over history could fully explain it. Wouldn't the ancestry test show you and your children as matches, or not? Before I found my half-sister and biodad, the DNA matches made no sense, but half-siblings and parents, children are pretty obvious. But ancestry, ethnicity, does vary quite a bit. Commercial DNA kits will tell you your relatives, including distant. If your kids don't show up as your kids on their respective profiles, then you aren't biologically their father. When it comes to the DNA percentage makeup, those can result in different percentages than one may expect. Not a genealogist, but I've done multiple DNA kits and tests for personal reasons. If your children are biracial, mixed race, then their ancestry percent will not be 0.5% of yours or even identical to one another as siblings. My 40 male, postpartum wife, 35 female, is losing her mind but won't get real help. Okay, I need help because my wife has lost her fucking mind. This is long, but I feel like I am going crazy and I don't know what to do. Too long did not read. Wife seems to be doing badly postpartum but won't accept real help, and now I've caught her sending nudes to strangers. She is very obviously going to know this is about her, and she's on Reddit like 18 hours a day. Names are changed for privacy anyway, but here goes. Billy, I love you more than anything else in the world, but I am at my wit's end. Relevant stats. I, 40 male, have been married to my wife, 33 female, for 9 years. We have 2 kids, 2 female and 4-month-old boy. Together for 12 years. She is the absolute light of my life and divorce is not an option. When we met, I was a mid-level drug dealer and she was a bartender and occasional escort. She was upfront about it and never escorted again after we became exclusive at my request. I was her dealer. We moved to a very large city shortly after we became involved. I got clean and gained legitimate employment. She kept bartending but she was still partying, doing drugs and going to shows and festivals, but I had no reason not to trust her. I was always invited, and went often, knew all her friends and coworkers, and she was always upfront about who was trying to make moves on her and was firm about being taken. Always answered calls and texts in a reasonable time frame and sent lots of photos. I like mountain biking, rock climbing, etc., so we have different interests there and allowed each other space to engage in our hobbies. She was unfortunately sought after putting herself in a dangerous situation that had horrific consequences. I do not and have never blamed her. I know it's not her fault no matter how risky her behavior was. I made the terrible mistake of encouraging her to go to the police, and she has said many times since then that the experience of the aftermath was almost worse than the assault itself. She had been assaulted before and not reported it, and it was me who convinced her to save other women, this time. I'll never forgive myself for what the police and DA put her through. I suppose it's relevant that she also suffered horrific physical and psychological abuse as a child that was basically facilitated by her parents, though they weren't the sole perpetrators. They're very wealthy, and I met Billy shortly after she had dropped out of college and turned 21. They cut her off for a while after that and she started bartending. Then her boss's friend who was a pimp hired her to escort. Then we met and she quit escorting soon after. She reconciled with her parents somewhat. She speaks to them the bare minimum, but they give her a lot of money and pay for her cell phone and car payment still, even though I could absolutely afford it. She has experienced a bit of arrested development, I think. We have moved states 3 times since that initial move to a large city, always for my job. She always found work at bars when we moved and made friends very quickly, and all was well. She normally has no problem expressing herself, so if this were an issue, she would have said so. Until this last move. She unexpectedly became pregnant with our second child a month before we moved to a state where we know absolutely no one. She had a rough first trimester and I make enough to support us, so she hasn't worked in a little over a year. She also hasn't made any friends but doesn't seem to want to. I suppose that was all background, and here's the real issue. Since our son was born 4 months ago, my wife has become extreme in her personality. Like everything that existed in her personality has multiplied tenfold. She likes to dance. Now she's dancing basically all day. We have Nest cams and she plays music for the kids for most of the day, and I can see she pretty much never sits down now. She always liked working out. Now she does it for at least 90 minutes after the kids go to sleep. She used to not be a great sleeper. Now she barely sleeps 3 hours a night, even if the kids are sleeping well. Always took long showers. Now they're an hour long or more. Always had a light-hearted interest in conspiracies. Now she's constantly reading about insane shit. Always had a bit of a short fuse. The other day she got so mad that I wouldn't have sex with her that she stormed out of the house on a day I had to work, and I ended up having to stay home with the kids because she disappeared and turned her phone off. She came home with $500 worth of stuff from Saks. Which brings me to what's probably the biggest issue. She's always been very sexual and I've always loved that about her, obviously. But now I'm 40 with 2 kids and a job and I'm tired, and she is absolutely insatiable. It's exhausting. I dread it now. I'd rather not have sex at all than this. We had a serious talk about her trying to manipulate me into having sex with her, which she absolutely was doing almost every day, and she took it to heart. But now I can see her just quietly upset, seething when I turn her down. She's always had a higher libido than me, but now we've moved even further in opposite directions and it's creating a lot of tension, as you can probably tell. 2 weeks ago I found her crying, sitting on the floor of the kitchen after the kids had gone to sleep. I held her for a long time and she finally said she would go to therapy. I had been asking gently for almost a year if she would, but I knew if I pushed her she would never do it. She went to a clinical social worker, I think that's what she said? It sounds wrong to me now, but I know it wasn't a psychologist or psychiatrist, basically just someone to talk to, who said she's depressed and possibly OCD. But the therapist suggested she meditate and journal as a way to cope. I think she needs medication, but I can't tell her that or she'll think I'm calling her crazy. I tried suggesting she go to an actual doctor of mental health and she snapped at me saying she was getting help and I need to be patient. I am not going to relate the specific incident that was the catalyst for what happened next because it's long and boring. Too late, I know, but I snooped through her phone. Maybe that's wrong, I don't know or care. She sent nudes to someone on Reddit, around the time I found her crying in the kitchen. They were extremely graphic but contained no identifying info such as face or tattoos. It was only one person, a total of 9 pictures over the course of 3-4 days, and I scoured her phone after that and am confident there are no more. She takes care of our children almost 100% of the time, so I know she's not physically cheating. The messages between her and this guy were heartbreaking. She talked about me a lot and actually only said kind things about me, if sometimes very misguided. I can and should do better than her. She doesn't deserve me or the kids. I'm wonderful and a great provider, dad lover, etc. She was also clear with him that she's depressed, she's bored, she feels ugly. I compliment her all the time but she just rolls her eyes and says I'm lying or wrong. She feels like she never accomplished anything. She said I treat her like a child but that she's pathetic and can't take care of herself, so why wouldn't I? Obviously I'm feeling very betrayed but also worried and sad. I don't know what to do. I don't even know how to bring it up. Or what to bring up. I am not worried for my safety or the safety of my children, but I do have a sinking feeling that my wife will hurt herself or make a mistake she can't take back. Alright, my opinion is, you shouldn't ask help here. You need professional help to help her. Look for a psychiatrist to you. Tell all the history, and maybe the doctor can orientate you how to step in this. Second, you need a psychologist to you, because you both have a heavy and dense past. Talk all. Ask for help. Someone from outside of all this may bring a light in a solution what you can't see now. I'm not a medic, but to me she looks like my ex-girlfriend, who have a bipolar disorder, and she looks in mania high. Is not easy to help. That's why I suggest too you go to a professional. Stay strong. This is above our pay grade. What you are describing is a crisis. Your wife needs immediate intervention. PP hormones are no joke. FYI, her primary care doctor can work with her therapist and act as a prescriber. So can the OB. My primary prescribed me an SSRI for postpartum anxiety after I discussed it with my therapist. It was my idea. This was not thrust on me, I absolutely benefited from it. Call her doctor or the OB now and describe what is happening and get her an appointment as soon as you can. Get a second opinion. Call her OB/GYN. Postpartum depression is common and not every woman reports it. For the first 6 months after giving birth, hormones are insane. I didn't realize how insane it was until I gave birth myself. By the way, rest assured that a clinical social worker is a real thing. They have a master's degree in social work and are licensed to work in mental health. LCSW is a licensed clinical social worker. However, there is no harm in finding another one, or finding a psychiatrist, etc. I hate to internet diagnose, but my first instinct is that she may have bipolar disorder. This sounds like a manic phase. Postpartum mania. It happens. It can lead to her being involuntarily committed if she doesn't start working to get a handle on it now. This needs the help of psychiatry, with some urgency. And X200B. It can and should turn out totally fine, but it needs medical attention now. From your description it sounds like she's either having a manic episode or hooked on meth, or both. Either way isn't too good. I don't think it's a specifically postpartum thing. Good luck, man. I think you're in for a rough time trying to get her stable again. Hey there. I'm so sorry your family is going through this. You are indeed at a crisis point though. Is there any way you can take leave from work? Or WFH? Unfortunately I'm speaking from experience. This sounds a lot like my own postpartum experience. I dealt with postpartum psychosis. I became a different person and it ruined my marriage. I had a mental break. And it didn't get any better until I went inpatient for a little bit. Your wife needs help, immediately. Wishing you all the best. Is she clean? Because to me and with my experience with my ex, she sounds like she might be on meth. I wouldn't have suggested it until I saw that she did do drugs in the past. Her mannerisms remind me of my ex while he was high on meth. Hopefully it's mental issues which are treatable. If it's drug related, I wish you luck from the deepest part of my heart, hun.